and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, we talk about all things homesteading, homemaking, and just our journey to a slower, more simple life. In today's video, I'm going to be making and canning some applesauce. It is apple season, which is so exciting. I love September when the apples are on the trees and we can all go apple picking. So I'm going to make applesauce, and I'm going to make apple cider with the peelings, and I will show you how I'm going to do both of those things. First, to make it easier, I have this little tool. I don't know exactly what it's called, but I can link it down below. It is not that expensive at all, and it makes the process so much easier for what I'm going to be doing with a bunch of apples. I got 20 pounds of apples to start the season off and just see how much applesauce and stuff that makes me with that much. I'm sure I'll probably put up some more before the end of the season. But I thought I'd bring you along with me for the process so that if this interests you, you can do it along with me too. So let me kind of go over all the things I'm going to be using. Like I said, I have 20 pounds of apples today. I'm going with Macintosh just because it's a personal favorite of mine, but they're also really sweet, really good. They're a softer apple. Like I said, I have this device that I can link it down below. This basically helps me core, peel, and slice apples so that I don't have to do that whole process by hand. And here I have a pot that has some nice water in it, and then I have a strainer already in it. This is going to be for the apple cider. I'm going to put my peelings in there and let it boil. And then this is a huge pot that I have. I'm going to put on the stove with just enough water so that the apples won't just burn to the bottom of the pan. But this is what I'm going to be cooking down the apples in for the applesauce. So with that, let's grab my bags of apples and just get started. Here is one bag, 2 bags. So first I'm going to go ahead, get that stuck down. Then I can remove that, and we bring that back there. Place our apple like this, and then we just spin it. Peelings will go in there. Apple removed, and the apple will go in our pot for the applesauce. Some people like to put the cores in when they're making apple cider too. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in the compost only because I know that seeds have little amounts of cyanide in them, and although it probably wouldn't do anything, probably nothing would leach, I just don't want to, just in case. I would hate to feel like there's anything going on. So I'm just putting the cores in the compost. So we're just going to continue this process for all of our apples. So we have half of our apples all done. Here's the peels in this one, and here is all the slices in this one. I'm just going to go ahead and break them up more with my hands, and then I'm going to add a decent amount of water to this, enough so not so much that it will be like boiling in the water, but enough so that the apples do not burn to the bottom of the pan. And as you can see, this is a big amount of apples we have in here already. So I'm going to go ahead and add the water to this, and I'll probably add a little bit more water to this as well, and then we're going to put them on the stovetop. I'm going to go ahead and take a knife to just kind of cut it up even more. I'm not worrying about scraping the bottom of the pan because it's so thick, but this will just help break it up further. So I've had these both over the highest temperature, and I've been stirring it. It's only been, I don't think even 10 minutes yet, and it's already broken down quite a lot. And so the mass of it has gone down. It is much more liquidy already mixed in with the liquids. And I'll go ahead and show you. But because it's now on that stage, I think now I will get the next 10-pound bag and start peeling and coring those as well. And then I can add it all to it. And then we can really focus on making the applesauce and cider, and then we can can it up. See how much that has broken down already? That is what we like to see. You want to make sure you keep an eye on the liquid because we don't want liquid to boil dry. That's how you'll end up with a mess. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my immersion blender to just really get all the big pieces all nice and small and chunked up. That'll just help the process move along. If you don't have an immersion blender, of course you could ladle it out and put it in a regular blender and then put it back in. It would be more time consuming, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So let's go ahead. Now while that process is almost done, I got out my canner. So applesauce needs to be water bath canned. So if you're using a Presto electric canner, make sure this is off. Make sure you put it over to boiling water can. And applesauce takes 15 minutes to process. So I got that set there. My jars are already inserted. I put the water up to the fill line, filled all the jars with half full with water, and they're in. So I can hit continue again. And now this, make sure that's on, we'll go ahead and warm up and get the jars sterilized and ready to put applesauce in. So the applesauce is cooked down and looks nice and ready. It is pretty much a perfect texture. So when it comes to home canning, safety and knowing the safety is really important. So I will always say don't just use me as a source. Make sure you go and double check. But as far as sugar goes in canning, it plays an impact on preserving textures and preserving color in your canning, but it is not necessary to follow a certain amount of sugar in recipes. For the most part, for all the recipes I can think of, it doesn't play an effect on the actual safety. So it's up to you how much sugar you want to add to your applesauce. You also can add stuff like cinnamon. I think as we talked about in a previous canning video where I did pickles, you can add and take away dried herbs as you please to recipes, and that doesn't affect the safetiness either. I'm not adding cinnamon to mine because my fiance does not like cinnamon. I don't know why or how, but I actually do know why. But that is a story not for me to tell. But he doesn't like cinnamon, so I'm keeping it plain. But I am going to add a little bit of sugar. It doesn't need much because apples are very sweet and I don't want this to be desserty. If it was just for me to eat, I actually wouldn't add any sugar, I don't think, or a very, very little amount because it's great as is. But to kick a little bit of the acidity, of the sourness to it, I am going to add just enough to kind of neutralize it so it's not sour, but not so much that it is overly sweet. I'm sorry that in this video I haven't really given amounts for anything because I feel like this is something that is going to be very dependent on how many apples you get, you know, what your flavor profiles are like, and I'm not going to say for sure an amount of sugar either. I'm just going to put a little bit as I go and taste, and we'll see what we go with for how much I have. The applesauce, you can't see from this angle, is about up to here filled in this pot. So that is a good amount of applesauce. I'm really excited. Once we get this done, then we'll talk about the apple cider and what I'm going to put in that for flavorings, because that I'm really excited about. It is such a perfect autumnal drink in my opinion. But I'm going to get started with taste testing the amounts of sugar. So I'm pretty happy with that. That was a few cups of sugar. I honestly did not count. But the last step for getting it into our jars is I am going to ladle it through a mesh kind of strainer into a bowl. Because of how gigantuan amount of applesauce this is, I will only do it a little into a bowl at a time. Even my biggest bowls won't be able to fit all of this at once. So I will do it some at a time, and just to get the last bits of a little bit of peelings that were left behind, little chunks of anything that's just not nice and smooth how I want it. You don't have to do that step, but I want it to be nice and smooth. So I'm gonna do that step, because why not? So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a bowl and then start that process. Now that the jars are all full and in here, we're going to fill it about 1 inch above where the jars are, and then we can get the process going. Lid on and hit continue. So while our applesauce is water bath canning, I can do some stuff with the apple cider we got here. So here's all the peelings, all really broken down. And in there, we have some really good liquid. So what I'm gonna do is kind of push down on these with a spoon that I will grab, just to let out all the liquid so we don't lose any of that goodness. And then I'm gonna transfer the liquid into a slow cooker that I have behind me. We have a beautiful liquid. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour that in here. And then to this, I'm going to add some cinnamon sticks, some brown sugar, just some really nice autumnal flavors to make this absolutely delicious. As you can see, it didn't make a whole lot for how many apples we used. We're definitely getting a lot more applesauce out of this than apple cider, but that's okay. I did this process for the applesauce mainly. The apple cider is just a nice treat, but if I did have a lot of it, I would probably go ahead and freeze it instead of canning it. Just a personal preference, but this will be plenty to just put in the fridge and enjoy over the next couple days. I put a star anise in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some brown sugar. I'm gonna put that on top and have it on low and slow. So our first round is out, and I'm putting 7 more jars in to start heating up and getting all sterilized for us. And we're just gonna start the process all over again. Boiling method, 15 minutes, insert jars inserted, all good to go. I got the second and last round of applesauce in our canner now, and in total I think 20 pounds of Macintosh apples made 13.5 pints of applesauce, which is not bad at all. It also made this, which this is a quart jar, and it was just about perfect. This I could render more and process better and turn this into applesauce as well, but I decided to just take the bits that didn't want to go through the strainer and put it in a quart jar, and I will use this in some kind of baking to make something appley, either a pie or something like that. But so technically, if I wanted to turn this into applesauce as well, this would be, let me see, how many pints are in a quart? I think 2. There's 4 quarts in a gallon, and then 2 pints in a quart, I believe. This was like 4th grade math, I should remember. But that is what I plan to do with this, is put it probably in a pie. As you can probably see, I have a lot of dishes to do, and so that is going to be my next big task. I won't have you suffer through it with me though, but before I leave you today, I do want to show you a project that is now finished that I'm so proud of, and I think you'll like seeing it too, and maybe it'll help inspire you for where you are also, I can hope. So let's go check it out. So let us go outside. And if you've been here with me for a little bit, you might know what it is, but we now have a permanent and beautiful fence. It goes the whole way around the front yard. On this side, I used some spare of my fencing I already had, and some of that orange fencing just to close it off. There is a way to get through with this too, as you can see. This is just, I think, a small dog fencing. I got it off Amazon a while ago, I believe. But it is just a makeshift one right there, because we do plan to eventually extend the nice fence to the whole backyard and fence that in. So until then, we're just gonna do that. But I absolutely love it. I think it turned out amazing. I've always wanted this area to be fenced in nicely, and it will keep the deers out. I will say the metal part of the fencing is about 4 feet. I do think a deer, if it really wanted to, could jump that, but where we are in kind of the suburbs of the town, deer are not that needy of food. They have plenty to pick from, and so if they're just passing through, they're not going to go through the effort. My makeshift fence that I had up kept them out pretty much 100%. One night there was a storm and it kind of fell down a little bit, enough so that they didn't have to jump over but could just kind of walk over at one spot, and they got at tomatoes again. We had to chase them off, but they're really not gonna mess with it, I'm pretty much positive. So if you like how it looks and are interested, it definitely was an investment, but not terrible. Posts are, well, they were originally 4 by 12s, and so we had them cut in half so that they would be 4 by 6s. And we used an auger that we already had. So if you don't have an auger, they are about $200 to buy. And if you are somebody who is gonna do lots of projects, I would say buy it, because it's pretty much just as expensive as renting one. But that was definitely 100% the hardest part, because where I am in Maine, it is extremely rocky. And so every little bit you would go down with the auger. It's supposed to bring the rocks up, spiraling up, but the rocks would be so big, or just where they were placed, it would just get caught and like rip it out of your hand. I will say, no, I did not do the augering. This fence, unlike my last one that I did by myself, was big help by my fiance, so thank you so much. But we got all of the post holes dug, and then we got cement, and we cemented the 4 by 6s into the ground about 1.5 feet deep, and they're really good for the most part. They're all pretty much perfectly sturdy. After that point, I did the staining of them. It looks so nice. I love it. It's the same stain I repainted the deck with this summer. but I stained them up all nice, and then we got metal fencing. I don't know the exact type of metal wire fencing that it is, but you saw. And then we staple gunned it all the way around. And then the last part was the gate. I'm so happy to have this project done, because that not only means that this current garden is safe for the rest of this year, but that means the whole front yard is safe and kind of opens up to be completely turned into a little food forest. That is the goal. I want to utilize pretty much the entirety of the front lawn for garden space, because the backyard here is fully shaded by trees, so that would not work. Even though I personally, as the little introvert I am, would prefer my happy space being more private in the backyard, that just can't happen, which is fine. But the backyard will be utilized for other things. The front yard will be the garden. I might even get chickens again next spring and put them in the back garden. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But we'll see. If you don't know, I had lived here before and I had chickens here. This is my family home, the home I grew up in. And then I moved out into an apartment for 2 years, and so I obviously couldn't take chickens to the apartment as much as I would have wanted to. And my mom, who lives here with us, didn't want to take care of chickens, so we gave them to a family member. But now that I am back here for the foreseeable future, I'd like to think that I could get onto my own property with acreage in the nearer future, but considering the state of things, I'd say I'm probably going to be here for a while, which is absolutely fine. But I am considering doing chickens again in the backyard here. But of course, that would be another investment up front to get the infrastructure in place for them again. And so it's really about if I want to save that money that goes into that to wait till I'm on the other property to put the infrastructure there, or if I'm willing to do more investment into the place here, and so that I can have chickens, maybe ducks, at this property. So that is just something I am pondering. It would not be until next spring anyway that this would happen, so let me know what you think on that matter. But thank you for being here today. I hope you enjoyed us making applesauce together. I hope that you do it as well. Apple season usually goes from where we are now in September until early October, so go get those apples. Even if it's just apples from a grocery store, you don't have to go to a local orchard like I did. And you don't have to start by making a whole lot like I did either. You can start by just making a little bit that you can eat throughout a week. But food storage and seasonal eating is not only, to me, an important thing that we learn and try to work towards, but it is also kind of fun. It helps you to live more with the seasons and to kind of slow down, as we try to do here. If you enjoyed it and want to see more content kind of like this, consider subscribing. But I just hope to continue to expand this community of like-minded folks that are interested and want to learn about the same things and live the same kind of life. So that'll do it for me, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye!